His eyes were like shadows, pulling me deeper into a world I was never meant to enter. The first time I saw him, he was standing in the corner of that smoky room, the kind of place where secrets were currency and silence was louder than words. I should have run the other way. Instead, something twisted inside me, a mix of fear and something I didn't want to name. "You shouldn't be here." His voice was low, like velvet wrapped around steel. I swallowed, feeling my heartbeat hammering against my ribs. I wasn't planning to stay. He stepped closer, the faint scent of leather and danger trailing behind him. Plans change. I wanted to pull back, but my feet wouldn't obey. Every inch of me screamed to escape, yet the gravity of his presence kept me rooted. Who is this man? I wondered, but the truth was, I already knew he was the Mafia heir, the cold shadow behind the city's most ruthless family, and somehow, I was trapped in his orbit. The room buzzed with tension. I caught whispers from the crowd, eyes flickering with fear and respect when they looked at him. "No one crossed the Mafia heir. You don't know what you're stepping into," he murmured, voice barely above the music. "Maybe I do," I said, my voice trembling but defiant. He smiled then, a slow, dangerous smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Then maybe you're already lost." A sudden commotion broke the spell. A rival gang had crashed the party. Chaos erupted like wildfire, and in the chaos he grabbed my hand. "Stay close," he hissed. His grip was firm, possessive, and I realized this was no rescue. It was a warning. In his world, trust was a weapon, and I was dangerously unarmed. How did I end up here? I thought, as gunfire echoed in the distance. That night, his eyes held secrets darker than the city itself, and I was just a pawn in a game I didn't understand. But as the danger closed in, something unexpected happened. I wasn't running anymore. I was staying, and maybe, just maybe, I was beginning to fall. The room was thick with silence, heavier than the smoke curling from the ashtray on the cracked wooden table. His eyes didn't waver, sharp and cold like winter steel. I wanted to speak, but the words stuck like poison on my tongue. "You think you understand what this life means. Me like Thunderdot." I swallowed hard, trying to keep my trembling voice steady. "I'm trying," he laughed, a sound void of humor. Trying is a joke to them. To me, it's survival. The tension stretched between us, every second loaded with unspoken threats and promises. Remembered the night he first pulled me into this dangerous world, the way his fingers had brushed mine, cold but claiming. Now every glance was a test, a game I wasn't sure I wanted to play. What if I'm just a pawn, I thought. What if falling for him is my biggest mistake? But the pull was irresistible, like a moth to flame, despite the burns I could already feel. Suddenly, the door creaked. A shadow slipped inside, and my heart slammed against my ribs. "You're not safe here," the newcomer said, voice edged with warning. He turned sharply, eyes narrowing. "Who warned you?" "Let's just say enemies don't forget, and neither do I." My breath hitched. The web was tightening, and I was caught. In the middle, my skin prickled as I stepped into the dimly lit room, the heavy scent of cigar smoke and danger hanging thick in the air. The silence was oppressive, but his presence was louder than any sound. He was there, leaning against the wall with his arms crossed, eyes sharp like a hawk ready to strike. "You're late," his voice was low, a warning wrapped in silk. I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Traffic," I lied, but he didn't bother to reply. His stare pierced right through me, as if weighing my every intention. He always does this. Makes me feel like I'm walking on a blade, one wrong move away from falling off the edge. The tension between us was a silent battlefield. His control was absolute, yet something beneath it made me want to break free, to fight back. "They're watching," he finally said, voice colder than the night outside. "The family's not just after me anymore. Now it's you." My heart clenched. I was supposed to be safe here, yet danger lurked closer than ever. "Why me?" I whispered, barely audible. He stepped closer, the scent of leather and something darker filling my senses. "Because you're mine, and anyone who touches you will pay." His promise was a double-edged sword, protection wrapped in threat. The door creaked, and footsteps echoed. We both tensed, instinct sharpening every sense. Someone entered, but the dim light masked their face. "It's her." The voice was cold, merciless. "She's the weakness." He didn't flinch. Instead, his hand tightened around mine, a silent vow, a warning to the shadows. "Then let them come," he growled. "We'll burn the whole city down if we have to," I realized. Then, I wasn't just a pawn in their war. I was a player, whether I liked it or not, and I was ready to learn how to play. His footsteps echoed softly down the marble hall, each step a countdown to what I dreaded yet craved. The cold silence between us was thick, a battlefield where words could wound deeper than knives. He stopped just inches from me, his breath a whisper against my skin. "You don't understand what you're getting into," he said, voice low and sharp like shattered glass. I swallowed the fear that clawed at my throat, forcing a steadiness I barely felt. "But maybe I do." His eyes, dark pools hiding storms, searched mine for a crack, a hint of weakness. I met his gaze, defiance sparking where terror used to live. "Then teach me," I whispered, voice trembling yet fierce. A slow smirk curved his lips, half promise, half warning. "Good," he murmured, "because in this world, trust is the deadliest game." Behind us, the shadows shifted. Unseen eyes waiting, enemies closing in like wolves circling prey. Night air bit at my skin as I waited outside the dimly lit warehouse. My breath came out in shaky clouds, but I forced myself to steady my nerves. This was the moment I promised myself I'd face everything. No more running, no more hiding behind his shadow. Tonight, I'd step into the darkness with my own light. Footsteps echoed behind me. He appeared like a shadow, silent and sure. His eyes scanned the area, sharp as a hawk's. I nodded, my heart pounding like a war drum. I'm done being afraid. We slipped inside the warehouse where whispers of deals and betrayals hung thick in the stale air. Figures moved in the shadows, men and women whose loyalty was as uncertain as the flickering lights overhead. This was the battleground for power. And we had just stepped onto the field. A sudden crash startled me. A group of rival enforcers burst through the door, weapons drawn. Chaos erupted as orders were shouted in harsh tones. I felt his hand grip mine tightly, grounding me amid the storm. "Stay close," he hissed. The firefight was brutal, each second stretched by fear and adrenaline. I ducked behind Crate's heart, hammering in my chest, every instinct screaming to flee. But then he was there, shielding me, moving with deadly grace. The man I thought I knew was a force of nature, his coldness transforming into fierce protection. When the dust finally settled, the enemies retreated, leaving behind silence and the scent of gunpowder. I looked at him, blood trickling down his temple, eyes blazing with intensity. "You fought for me," I whispered, disbelief and something like awe mixing in my voice. "You're part of this now," he said, voice rough but certain, "and I won't lose you." Those words wrapped around me like a promise and a warning. The lines between love and war blurred further. I realized then that in this world, trust was the most dangerous gamble, and I was all in, but the battle was only beginning. With every secret uncovered and every enemy defeated, the stakes grew higher, alliances shifted, and betrayals lurked behind smiles. The man who kept me safe was also the man who could destroy me, and I had to decide, was I willing to pay the price for this love? Or was this the beginning of my own undoing? The night was thick with silence, but my mind screamed louder than any gunshot. Every breath I took felt heavy, weighted with the knowledge that nothing would ever be the same again. I was trapped in a world where love and danger danced dangerously close, where every moment could be my last dot. He sat across from me, eyes shadowed but burning with a fire I couldn't quite read. "You think you know fear," he said quietly, "but you haven't seen anything yet." His words cut deep, but so did the truth behind them. I was no longer the girl who stumbled blindly into darkness. I was awake now, sharper, harder, but the scars on my soul told the story of battles fought and losses endured. "Why do you keep pulling me closer?" I asked, voice trembling but defiant, "when you know this life could kill me?" He didn't answer at first. Then, with a voice that was both cold and tender, he said, "Because you're the only light I've ever known in this endless night." Those words wrapped around me like a shroud, both comforting and suffocating. I wanted to believe in the promise of us, but the enemies lurking in every shadow reminded me that nothing came without a price. Days turned into nights filled with whispered secrets and stolen glances. The Mafia world around us twisted tighter, alliances shifting like sand beneath our feet. Betrayals cut deeper than any blade, and trust became a fragile thread we struggled to hold. One evening, as rain hammered the windows, a message arrived, chilling. "She's yours for now, but not for long." The threat was clear. The war was far from over. He stood then, moving closer until the space between us was electric. With tension, "You're mine," he said, voice low, "and I'll tear down hell itself to keep you safe." But even as his arms wrapped around me, shielding me from the storm outside, I felt the weight of the future pressing down, a future where love and death walked hand in hand, and I wondered if I was strong enough to survive either. The morning light felt wrong that day, too harsh, too exposing. I woke with a restless ache, like the shadows of the night still clinging to my skin. Outside, the city buzzed with its usual chaos, but inside, everything felt suffocatingly silent. He was gone, just like that. No warning, no goodbye. My phone vibrated suddenly, a message from an unknown number. "They're coming. Run." Panic clawed at my chest. Every instinct screamed to flee, but where could I go? The world he'd pulled me into was a cage, and now it was closing in fast. I dressed quickly, heart pounding with each step. The streets blurred past as I moved, but every face felt like a threat, every shadow a potential enemy. Memories of him flickered in my mind, his cold gaze, the rare soft smile, the way he'd held me when the world felt like it was crashing down. Was he protecting me, or had he left me to face this alone? The line between ally and enemy blurred as I found myself cornered in an abandoned warehouse. Footsteps echoed, slow and deliberate. A voice I recognized whispered, "You should have stayed out of this." My breath hitched as the figure stepped forward, one of his rivals, the man I'd been warned about since day one. The danger was real, close, and merciless. "Why?" I whispered, voice breaking. "Why am I caught in your war?" He smiled, dark and cold. "Because you belong to him, and hurting you is the easiest way to get to him." A sudden noise distracted him, the sound of a car screeching to a halt. Then, Footsteps. His footsteps. He was back. Get away from her, he growled, voice low and deadly in that moment. I saw not just a mafia boss, but a man willing to fight hell for me. But would that be enough, or had I already lost everything? The cold night air bit through my jacket as we escaped into the maze of dark alleys. My heart was still racing, echoing the chaos that swirled around us. I was caught between fear and a strange rush, knowing he'd risk everything to keep me safe. You shouldn't be here, he said, voice rough but controlled, like he was holding back a storm. His eyes, sharp and unreadable, scanned every shadow as if daring danger to come closer. I don't have a choice, I whispered. Once you pulled me into this, there was no turning back. He was silent for a moment, the weight of his world pressing down on us both. Then, unexpectedly, his hand found mine, firm, grounding. You're stronger than you know. That's why they want you. The truth hit me like a blow. I was no longer just a pawn. I was a threat. And with that realization came a strange power, a spark that refused to be snuffed out. But the enemies were closing in faster than we thought. A coded message on his phone warned us, "Midnight docks, don't be late." I didn't understand what awaited us, only that walking into the lion's den was inevitable. With every step toward that meeting, I felt the danger grow, and with it, the pull between us, tighter and more dangerous than ever. And as the clock ticked down, I knew this night would change everything or end it all. The docks were cloaked in fog, the only light coming from flickering lamps swaying with the cold wind. Every creak of the wooden pier sounded like a warning. I stayed close to him, feeling the weight of unseen eyes watching us from the shadows. "They're waiting," he murmured, voice low but tense. His hand tightened around mine, a silent promise that he wouldn't let anything happen to me. As we approached the meeting spot, figures emerged, some familiar, some strangers' faces, hardened by years of betrayal and violence. The air was thick with distrust. "This is it," he said, eyes locked on the leader of the rival crew. One wrong move and it's war. The negotiations started cold and sharp, words like knives thrown between them. But then the unexpected happened, a sudden betrayal from within our own ranks. Shouts broke out, guns drawn, chaos erupted. In the middle of the madness, he pulled me behind a crate. "Stay down," he commanded, his voice deadly serious. But I was shaking, adrenaline fueling a courage I didn't know I had. Why am I still here? I thought, heart pounding. What is this feeling inside me? Fear mixed with something else, something dangerous. Amidst the gunfire and shouts, I saw him protect me like a lion guarding his cub. But the question lingered, how long before this dangerous dance ended in tragedy? And just when I thought we might escape, a shadowy figure appeared behind him, cold smile playing on lips I dreaded seeing. "You should have never come," the voice hissed. The night was far from over. The cold night air felt heavier now, as if the darkness itself was closing in. The shadowy figure stepped forward, the glint of a knife catching the dim light. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. He moved faster, blocking the blade with his arm. "You think you can just walk into our world and survive?" The stranger sneered, pain flashing in the Mafia heir's eyes, but his expression stayed unreadable, like a stone wall. "Get her out," he ordered quietly, his voice steady despite the blood trickling down his arm. I hesitated for a moment, then nodded, my legs weak but determined. As I slipped away, I could hear the sounds of a fight, harsh grunts, the echo of a gunshot, then silence. I found refuge in a nearby alley, heart pounding as I pressed my back against the cold brick wall. Why does this feel like the beginning of the end? I wondered, the fear gnawing at me like a living thing. Minutes later, he appeared, bruised but alive. His eyes found mine immediately. He looked at me for a long moment, a flicker of something vulnerability, maybe before his mask of control settled back in. Then you need to understand what this life really means. It's not just power or money. It's danger, betrayal, and sacrifices. I swallowed hard, the weight of his world pressing down on me. I'm ready. Good, he said, voice low, because the enemies aren't done with us yet. And in that moment, I realized loving the Mafia air was a dance with death, but I was too entangled to step away. The dawn was pale, barely breaking through the heavy curtains when he finally spoke. The silence between us was thick, loaded with unspoken fears and fragile hopes. They're planning something bigger, he said quietly, fingers tracing invisible patterns on the table. Not just a Hitan all-out war. I looked up, heart pounding. How much time do we have? Not enough. His eyes darkened, the weight of his family's legacy pressing down harder than ever. They want to destroy everything I've built, and you're the soft spot they'll exploit. A chill ran down my spine. I thought I knew what danger meant. I was wrong. He reached across the table, gripping my hand with an intensity that both comforted and terrified me. But I promise I won't let them hurt you. Not while I breathe. I nodded, the resolve settling deep inside me. Then teach me. Show me how to fight. He smiled, a brief, rare glimpse of warmth. You already are, just by standing beside me. Outside, the city hummed obliviously, unaware of the storm brewing just beneath its surface. But inside this room, two hearts braced for the chaos to come, and as the first light touched his face, I knew there was no turning back. Night fell like a shroud, thick and suffocating. The city lights flickered through the rain-streaked windows as we sat in silence, the tension between us sharper than any blade. They sent a message today, he murmured, voice low and steady, but laced with fury. A warning, someone close to us won't make it through the week. My breath caught. Who? He shook his head slowly, eyes shadowed. I don't know yet, but I intend to find out. The room felt colder, the walls closing in. I reached for him, needing the warmth that felt so scarce these days. We can't let them win. He turned to me, his gaze fierce. We won't. But you have to be ready. This world, it's ruthless. And sometimes the people you trust are the ones who stab you deepest. A silence stretched between us, heavy with unspoken fears. How did I get here? A pawn in a deadly game I barely understood. His hand brushed my cheek gently, a fleeting tenderness in the storm. I'm sorry you have to see this side of me, the darkness I keep locked away. I met his eyes, steady. I don't want to run anymore. I want to fight, with you. He smiled, a sharp, dangerous curve. Good, because the night is only beginning. The rain intensified, tapping against the window like a countdown to chaos. And in that moment, I realized survival wasn't just about escaping the past. Top was about embracing the fight ahead. The morning light was weak, struggling to break through the haze of last night's storm. I awoke to the scent of leather and smoke, a reminder that danger was never far from us. He was already gone. The bed cold beside me. A note lay folded on the nightstand, the sharp lines of his handwriting cutting through the quiet. They're moving. Be ready. Be ready. My heart pounded as I dressed, each step feeling heavier with the weight of what was to come. The world outside seemed innocent, but I knew better. Every smile hid a secret, every shadow held a threat. Downstairs, the house was empty except for the faint hum of the city's restless pulse. I stepped outside, the cool air biting at my skin. Somewhere, someone was watching, waiting for a mistake. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Trust no one. A shiver ran down my spine. This was more than a warning. It was a promise. I reached for the gun hidden beneath my jacket, fingers trembling. I'm not the same girl I was when this started. I have to be stronger, smarter. Suddenly, footsteps echoed behind me. I spun around, heart in my throat. "You shouldn't be out here alone," his voice said, calm but dangerous. He stepped into the light, eyes burning with a fierce protectiveness. "We face this together from now on." And with that, I knew there was no turning back. The night closed in like a velvet trap, wrapping around the city's darkest corners where secrets whispered and deals were made in shadows. I followed him through narrow alleys and forgotten streets, my breath shallow, heart pounding like a warning drum. Each step was a gamble, each glance over my shoulder a reminder that we were hunted. He moved with the grace of a predator, silent and sure. His hand brushed mine briefly, a touch that sent a jolt through my veins, mixing fear with something dangerously close to desire. How did I fall into this world? I wondered, the line between love and danger blurring with every heartbeat. We reached an abandoned warehouse, its broken windows like blind eyes staring into the abyss. Inside, the air was thick with tension. Faces emerged from the shadows, loyal men with eyes that never missed a threat. A council of power and menace, ready to defend their own. His voice was low, commanding. "They think they can break us, but they don't know what we're willing to do." I watched as the room stiffened, loyalty and fury sparking like electricity. I realized then that this was more than survival, it was a war for our souls, and I was caught in the middle. The morning light barely pierced through the heavy curtains as I sat alone in the cold silence of the penthouse. Every noise outside sounded like a threat. Every shadow held a promise of danger. The weight of what was coming pressed on my chest like a vice. He entered without knocking, his eyes dark pools of unreadable emotion. "They're closing in," he said quietly, voice rough with a mix of anger and something deeper, concern. I swallowed my fear. "What do we do?" He stepped closer, the air between us crackling. "We fight, but this time, it's not just about power, it's about us." The room seemed to shrink, the distance between us collapsing. For a moment, I saw past the cold exterior to the man who held his own battles hidden beneath. Promise. "Me, you won't lose yourself," I whispered. His laugh was bitter. "I lost myself long ago." But then, in his eyes, I caught a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, we could find a way back from the edge. The night felt heavier than usual, like the air itself was warning me. His silence was deafening as he stood beside me, eyes sharp and unreadable. I wanted to ask him what was really going on, but the fear curling inside me kept my lips sealed. "Why don't you trust me?" I finally whispered, voice trembling. His gaze pierced through me, slow and deliberate. "Trust isn't given freely in my world." I swallowed hard, understanding the weight behind his words. This was more than just danger. It was a battle for control, for survival. The phone rang, sharp and sudden, breaking the moment. He answered, voice cold and clipped. "What?" A brief pause, then a low growl. "They're closer than we thought." My heart skipped. Enemies closing in, and no place left to hide. Days blurred into nights, each one darker than the last. I felt myself changing from the scared girl who once trembled at his touch to someone fierce, ready to fight back. "You're not the same anymore," he said one night, voice barely above a whisper. I looked up at him, eyes steady. I have to be, for both of us. He nodded slowly, respect hidden behind his usual stoic mask. But beneath it, I sensed a flicker of something, pride, maybe. Then came the betrayal. A message slipped through from someone I trusted, revealing secrets I wasn't ready for. The family was unraveling, and so was I. Chapter 18. We met in the shadows of the city where trust was scarce and every word could be a weapon. His touch was rough but protective, a silent promise in the chaos. They want to break us, he said, voice low and dangerous, but they don't understand what binds us. I nodded, feeling the truth in his words. This was more than love. It was war, and we were soldiers fighting side by side, but the tension was unbearable. One wrong move could shatter everything. A gunshot in the dead of night shattered our fragile peace. Chaos erupted, screams and sirens filling the air. I clung to him, heart pounding like a drum. We have to leave, he commanded, eyes wild. We escaped. Through hidden tunnels, every step echoing with danger. The enemies were closing in, and the line between love and survival blurred beyond recognition. We reached the safe house, breathless and battered. He finally looked at me, eyes raw with emotion. You're my weakness, he confessed, voice breaking, and my strength. I realized then that our fight was far from over, but as long as we faced it together, maybe there was hope. That night, he kissed me like the last chance at redemption, but the war wasn't over, and the enemies were still out there waiting. The drama is far from over, and the questions keep piling up. Will they survive the deadly game that surrounds them? Can trust truly exist in a world built on lies and betrayal? And most importantly, what price will love pay when the Mafia's shadows close in tighter? If you're hooked on this dangerous romance, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more thrilling chapters, and drop your wildest theories in the comments below. Tell me, who do you think will break first, her or him? And what secrets are still waiting to be uncovered? Stay tuned, because in this world, every silence screams danger, and every kiss could be the last. Your next obsession is just one click away.